bem-vindos a mais um episódio do Pastelaria Podcast, podcast oficial da Spectra. Aqui com vocês, mais uma vez, Natan, ao meu lado, Maria. Tudo bom, Maria?
Tudo ótimo. De cabelos novos, inclusive, que tá ajeitando.
Exatamente. Estamos de volta, né? Voltamos de viagem, mas já estamos indo de novo em outra. A gente tá com a agenda um pouco apertada, né?
Se for falar da agenda, né?
Mas esse episódio é um episódio especial, certo? Muito especial, muito especial. Um episódio que a gente estava tentando organizar há muito tempo para trazer para vocês. Inclusive, esse vai ser o primeiro episódio em inglês, né?
Se preparem, vamos praticar o inglês aí, porque é o que tem. É o que tem para hoje.
Vocês provavelmente já viram a capa do episódio, então vocês já sabem quem está aqui, mas a Maria vai apresentar para vocês daqui a pouco. E a ideia hoje a gente vai fazer um episódio totalmente em inglês, então se a gente for falar alguma coisa em específico para vocês, aí a gente vai traduzir aqui e falar diretamente para vocês, mas a gente pede até a compreensão de vocês para deixar a conversa fluida. A dinâmica vai ser que a partir do momento que a gente começar a introduzir os nossos convidados, a gente vai fazer a conversa toda em inglês e depois vai ter as traduções aqui embaixo para vocês e tudo mais. Então a gente espera que vocês gostem e que a gente consiga trazer uma ótima conversa e um bate-papo com essas duas pessoas aqui, que são pessoas realmente especiais, né, Maria?
E super importantes para a história da empresa que a gente vai contar.
Exatamente. Então, quem que a gente trouxe aqui?
Gente,
Now
uma
we're going to speak in Portuguese. In English, sorry.
English. Calma.
He's going to speak in Portuguese.
É uma honra ter essas celebridades aqui na mesa, então aproveitem. E assim, tem muita coisa interessante para a gente discutir aqui. Então, eu vou agora mudar para inglês para respeitá-los aqui também e começar a nossa conversa. Espero que o nosso inglês também vá, né? Porque
depois vocês colocam aí nos comentários se vocês gostaram do nosso inglês.
A coisa aqui é macarrônica, mas vamos que vamos, hein? So, guys, thank you very much to be here with us. It's an honor to have you here. And a huge pleasure too. So
we usually say a joke here in Portuguese that when someone very, very important come to the table, we say that we are not dressed enough.
Yes,
to talk with these people.
Philip today is very well dressed. That's Chris, but this t-shirt, yes,
so that's the point.
Special, very special one. So. I will introduce you now to Philip Jedson. Yes, it's right? Great. Philip, it's a lot of things, okay? But we selected some things to describe him by now because he will describe himself much better than I will do now. So he's now a consultant, but no, he is also Lhasa's Scientific Advisor Board and the co-founder of Lhasa.
Yes.
So stay there because it's going to be a very, very nice episode.
Yeah.
And we also have the other celebrity that is Chris Barber, Lhasa's CEO, that is with us for a long time, a huge partner. So it's really, really a pleasure to have these big names of Lhasa here on our table today.
It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure. I'm going to change just a little bit to say in Portuguese something to the audience now. And then
Some recaps,
and then we come back to start the talk.
The audience is going to be confused because it's in Portuguese and then in English, and let's see how it's going to be.
Oh, it will be fine. I hope. Então, pessoal, só para vocês entenderem aqui, a gente tá hoje o episódio... vai ser um episódio, que a gente, como eu falei, a gente estava querendo falar muito sobre isso. A gente trouxe o CEO da Lhasa e a gente trouxe o fundador, um cofundador da Lhasa aqui, para discutir sobre a Lhasa, para apresentar a Lhasa para vocês, para quem ainda não conhece, para falar um pouco mais sobre a história da Lhasa, sobre a importância da Lhasa no desenvolvimento científico, principalmente no contexto da indústria farmacêutica. Mas antes disso, a gente não pode deixar de falar dos nossos parceiros aqui, né, Leandro? Então, primeiro recado, qual que é o primeiro recado que as pessoas têm que fazer, Leandro?
Fala inglês. Não,
não fala inglês, não. Primeiro recado que as pessoas precisam fazer.
Isso aqui tá certo. The first message.
Não, volta para o português.
O povo já não entende.
Mira. Pessoas americanas pediram para hablar despacito.
Mas em português.
Então,
em português.
hoje Yo hablar em português. Oi. Yo hablar em português despacito.
Perfeito.
Bom, então vamos lá. Primeira coisa, se você tá ouvindo isso aqui no Spotify, vai pro YouTube, se você não tá com o seu inglês afiado, perder alguma coisa, no YouTube vai ter a legendinha lá, tá? Não vai ter tradução, vai ter a legenda. São coisas diferentes.
É verdade.
Tradução, você contrata um tradutor pra ele refazer a voz das outras pessoas. Ok? Primeiro recadinho é esse, você tá ouvindo, não manja do inglês, não quer perder esse episódio que tá muito especial, corre pro YouTube e assiste com legenda.
YouTube. E segundo recado.
Você vai no YouTube, você tá lá, você dá assina o canal.
Perfeito.
Se inscreve no canal, assina o sininho. Se você tá no Spotify lá e foi pro YouTube, vai no Spotify, assina no Spotify também, dá 5 estrelas.
Dá 5 estrelas pra gente lá.
Se você é um Apple fã, vai lá no seu aplicativo da Apple, dá 5 estrelas também, deixa a gente bem avaliado, que é muito importante. Certo?
Perfeito.
E vai seguir a gente no Instagram Spectra Soluções Científicas, LinkedIn também, Spectra Soluções Científicas. Beleza?
Perfeito. Então, recadinho, não se esqueça, ativa o sininho lá do YouTube se você é uma pessoa que gosta de assistir no YouTube. Dá o seu curtir, se inscreve no canal, deixe seus comentários, interage com a gente pra gente saber se a gente tá no caminho certo e trazer mais informações como essa. Se você é do Spotify, 5 estrelas lá no Spotify.
Até 4. 4 a gente perdoa. 3 não perde esse tempo, não.
4 não, 5.
Esse foi o segundo recado. E o terceiro recado, Leandro, dos nossos parceiros CROMATOGRAFANDO.
Você vai aqui, ó, tem um monte de... Tem coisa nova aqui. Que
Coisa nova, inclusive, hein?
Então, você tem o guia de filtro, você tem o curso. O que tem agora, Nathan?
Agora é o guia de colunas também, que os nossos parceiros acabaram de desenvolver e está disponível no link aqui embaixo. Então, se você que trabalha com HPLC, quer saber mais sobre filtros e colunas, acesse o link aqui embaixo, certo?
Certo. E se você não viu o episódio da Axios com o Sérgio, veja, porque tem um monte de brinde lá que ele prometeu dar se a gente atingir as metas que ele cumpriu lá, hein?
Esse é o quarto lembrete. Então, aqui também, aqui embaixo, se você é uma pessoa que é nosso patrocinador, que viabiliza, ajuda a gente a fazer o episódio, é o pessoal da Axios Research. O Sérgio já veio aqui, teve um outro episódio, mas o link aqui está abaixo para você conhecer um pouco mais dos serviços da Axios, certo?
Exatamente. Vamos de rápido, porque hoje tem muita coisa boa para falar. Então vamos embora. Good program. Good show. Good show. Good show to us.
So,
bye. Tchau.
Mudando de novo para inglês, então. Maria, now we can start. What is the...
Yes, the most challenging part for me this episode is to do my special question in English. So, I hope my... people here at the table can understand us. So I will start with Philip, okay, Chris? So thank you. And Philip, who are you in the pastel tent?
Pastel tent.
Well, I'm Philip, and I grew up in Derbyshire, right in the middle of England.
Perfect.
And I was always drawn to want to find things out, to explore and have adventures. I've been mountaineering in Nepal. I was in the team that found Russia's deepest cave on a caving trip.
Wow.
I've done lots of trekking and traveling around the world. But in my career, that led me to want adventure and discovery in my career too. And that brought me into chemical research and later
That's great.
Nice.
computer methods.
Oh, wow, that's great.
You are chemistry, so...
Yeah. I studied chemistry
Nice.
at Manchester University,
Oh, nice.
which was great.
Yeah,
I went there
imagine.
because that's where my school teacher went.
Oh,
That was the reason
really?
I chose it, yeah.
Nice, nice.
And then I went straight into industry and was doing research into new agrochemical herbicides. mainly.
Nice.
Had the opportunity to have sponsorship by the company to do a PhD. So I did my
In
PhD.
the same area.
That was still in chemical research, chemical synthesis. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to University of Surrey for that. Had a great time. And then later, when I was working still as a chemist, Professor Peter Johnson, he was then just Peter Johnson, turned up from Leeds University to show us a very exciting program that he'd brought home from Harvard University.
Oh.
Now, this is before the invention of the mouse, the computer mouse. And he showed us pictures of students drawing chemical structures on a computer screen and getting ideas from the computer of how to make those chemicals.
Wow.
So I was just blown away by that. And I went to the boss and said, hey, what are we going to do about this? And the boss said, well, actually, we want to get involved in this project. Do you want to be the link person? So I suddenly turned into the computer man instead of the chemistry man.
I had
Beginning of it all.
I had the same feeling when I saw for the first time molecular dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw the molecules moving around, I said, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
I have to put this on my PhD as well in my project because I have to learn about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that I tried to put something there, but it was not the goal on the beginning of my project. But I can imagine
Wow.
how.
And when was it?
That would be 1981, something like that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a little anecdote that you might like about how you can bring different parts of your life all together.
Oh, nice.
Alan Long was working at Harvard University on that project, and he came to England to work on it in Leeds for a few days.
Okay.
And Peter Johnson, the prof at the university there, asked me would I entertain Alan for a day because he was rather busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what do you think Alan wants to do? And he said, well, I think he'd like to go caving.
Oh, no.
And so I was able to go to my boss and say, may I have a company car, please? I want to go caving. And I got the car.
Wow.
And it was a great success. And
I
I've
for
enjoyed
sure.
from there. And I think that is the point, Every activity you have, it has influences on every other one.
Yeah, this is true. So
Yes,
everything
for
is about
sure.
caving, right?
No.
I heard to start.
Wow, that's nice. I would love to be invited to go caving.
Oh,
Oh,
Yes.
well, next time you come to England.
Yeah. But I
We have
I
to
told you
schedule.
that I'm a little bit claustrophobic, so please just select one that's not that hard.
Oh, we'll find you one that doesn't go underground too much.
Okay.
too much.
Too much.
Too much.
If it's possible.
Yeah, of
Yes,
course.
that's nice. We will have many things to talk to Philip because it's
It's yeah.
yeah,
It's a lot of-
he does a lot of things and
Yeah.
very diverse. Yes, in many different places in the world. Yeah, Philip. And now he's his first time in Brazil. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you enjoying the time?
Oh, terrific, yeah. Someone asked me yesterday, was I enjoying Brazil? And I said it's better than I expected. And I didn't mean because I expected it to be bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
I meant
good.
because I expected it to be good, but it's better than good.
You have
Oh, that's
posters. So
Yes,
That's
yes,
the point. That's the point. You have
And
good
we're also
posters.
going to travel a little bit
Yeah.
and do some
Talk
hiking and trekking. So
Talking
probably
more
it's going
about-
to be
So yeah, now it's time before we go to the
deep
history
into, yes.
about how Lhasa came up in your history.
I will ask you this question, Chris. Who is Chris Barber in the tent of the pastel?
Firstly, I would be in that tent.
Yeah.
Pastels are wonderful.
Yes, it's
I'll be the one trying to get to the front of the queue.
With the sugarcane juice or
No, not the
no
sugarcane juice.
sugarcane juice? Okay.
I'll have
Okay.
2 pastels instead.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great.
I think it's my opinion as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of who am I think I'm going to tell you 2 defining events that have led me to where I am.
Perfect.
So the first one is discovering all the chemicals in my grandmother's medicine cabinet.
Oh.
So I did a lot of chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
potassium permanganate and glycerine together. I learned how to control that
Wow.
reaction to make fire. And so I think that sparked my interest in chemistry.
Oh, nice.
And after a while, I joined Pfizer as a medicinal chemist,
Oh,
Oh.
and I spent 20 years there doing
my
medicinal
team. My
chemistry.
team.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that, I think, leads me to the other defining event. After many years as a medicinal chemist, finding failure through toxicology and toxicity that could have been predicted,
Oh, that's
led me to Lhasa, of course, in silico predictions of chemical toxicity. And so I was drawn inevitably towards Lhasa. And so I joined Lhasa as the director of science before becoming the CEO.
Yeah. Nice.
How long have you been in Lhasa working?
So it's now 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So interesting beginnings. Yes. And you both are chemists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we are pharmacists, but
Medicinal chemist.
medicine chemists. Okay.
It's my flag as well.
And I'm a toxicologist.
Exactly.
So I think Chris can
Be at both sides.
yes.
There's an overlap.
Yeah, there's an overlap.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And we feel this in our daily basis. Yes, because I can help Nathan, and Nathan can help us, me a lot about discussing the toxicity of the molecules and so on.
So yeah, Philip, I would ask you how the idea starts, how the idea of Lhasa came up, and how hard it was. Very, very excited to understand more about how all the things came up together to create what Lhasa is today.
Yeah, well, I mean, the start of it was actually not all that difficult. The hard bit came with when we moved into toxicology, but we can come to that.
Okay.
But what had happened, what I mentioned, working with Peter Johnson, there was another guy called Peter Bamfield who worked for a company which no longer exists, which was Imperial Chemical Industries.
Okay.
And the three of us were in conversation in Leeds, and Peter Bamfield said he just heard that you could get grants from the government to start up new small companies. But why didn't we try and do that, to form a company to support the research work at Harvard? The idea was that Harvard had developed this very clever program to tell you how to make chemicals, but it needed knowledge to work from.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing a PhD, you make your progress and get your PhD by creating that clever software, not by sitting entering lots of knowledge into some sort of a storage database system.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that we would offer that kind of an industrial wing, if you like to call it that, to put in that knowledge. And we got the grant. And so we went ahead and did it. And that was how it started. And, you know, the reason I say it was easy was that we'd approached a few companies and we'd already found there were people who would support us.
Oh.
And so, you know, from day one, we'd got people kind of pushing us along.
So it was an idea that was supported by the company as well.
And we didn't see it as anything very big. We thought this would just be something to be used by maybe a couple of dozen companies sharing ideas.
Like people start the startups today.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, but we weren't seeing it as a startup to try and make money. We were just a bunch of
just to solve
scientists who wanted
problems.
to collaborate.
Yeah.
And that's why we set it up as a not-for-profit organization right at the start. With the idea this was for the science, not to make money.
Yeah, but
And
then
later came out that that's why it was successful.
Yes.
Because would you give all your knowledge to a company just so they could make money out of it?
Yes.
But if you can share your knowledge, then that's a different story, isn't it?
yeah, this is true. But
And this is the logo of Lhasa until today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shared knowledge.
But you guys had to leave your old jobs to get like the full part of it. How
Well-
was the transactions of?
At the start, it was all done on a kind of voluntary basis.
Okay.
And the companies those of us who were involved, companies were willing to meet the cost of letting us spend, say, a day a week doing it. So it just worked like that. We had no employed staff at all for the first couple of years, probably.
Wow.
It was all just done on that
So,
basis.
and who developed the first?
Each company promised to put in a certain number of man hours or person hours each year. And that was how it was done to start with.
I think that this should be the toughest part, right? To convince them to make this kind of contracts, to put money. So you guys have to show to them how good it's going to be, what you guys are promoting, right? So
That's right, yeah. And so the idea was, you know, if you know how to make certain types of chemical, but you don't know much about other tasks you might want to do, and another company knows some other bits, well, if you put it all together, so the one bit you get in, you get back maybe 10 times as much because there are, 10 other organizations or whatever. That was the argument, and the companies accepted it, and it went that way.
And this is interesting because I was thinking that on that time, they have a good collaboration with each other or not?
No, it was very good. I think this is something people don't quite understand from outside the industry, is that when it comes to research, there's a lot of collaboration between companies.
It's true.
And it's, to be honest, it's not because the senior members of the company like collaborating, it's because the scientists want to do it.
Yeah.
And it does pay off for the companies, but the driving force is scientists like working together. That's really
It's true. I think...
we see this until today.
But in Brazil, I think it's a little bit different. I think the industry here, sometimes it's hard to get inside.
But if you ask the scientists,
Oh,
somehow the scientists, they change their experiences
just like
and they share experiences, but not with the companies.
No, of course. Yeah. I think science is science, right? If you are a scientist, you have this kind of feeling that you want to share and spread the world. So I think...
But, I mean, there was a process we did have to go through. You know, I said about this being easy. Setting it up was easy, but carrying it forward was harder.
I can imagine.
Because the starting point is that a company will say, well, why should we give away our knowledge to another?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
And basically, we use the argument I just mentioned. You know, you give away your little piece, but you get back 9 times, 10 times as much.
Yeah.
And then the companies would say, well, you know, it's a sensitive area, this is very important chemistry to us. Say, well, tell us about the bits that don't matter. What about the products that failed?
Yeah.
Surely you can share the knowledge about how you made them.
Yeah, that's right.
And companies began to agree to do that.
Very nice.
And really early on, actually, one of the things companies did was they said, well, we know there are gaps in the knowledge in this program that are actually available in the published literature.
Yeah.
We will pay members of staff to find that published literature and turn it into knowledge.
Oh.
And so that began to happen. And then one company, someone fairly senior in the company said, why is this chemist spending all this time doing this? And they said, well, you know, because we want to collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, why waste his time looking at all literature? We've got knowledge of our own. Why don't we just use that? So suddenly, you know, suddenly we'd won the argument. And it just went from there.
Oh, nice.
Wow,
It's a very good strategy when you said, like, okay, you don't want to share with us your knowledge, but the things that failure, share with us. And say,
that's right.
It's good. So
And you know, there's a big
you learn a
difference.
lot,
There's a
actually.
big difference between saying, here is the chemical that we're really excited about, on the one hand. On the other hand, saying, our chemists have been working in a certain area of heterocyclic chemistry.
Yeah.
And we know all sorts of things about it. Some of it's published, some of it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all that sensitive. And, you know, the things we're working on are already covered. We've already made patent applications. We're not giving anything away here that matters too much. So here's the knowledge you might want it.
Oh, nice. And how? Oh, sorry.
I think sometimes the argument's going to shift a bit now. So now that Lhasa has 620 odd members, the argument's a little bit different. We can still use that. Why don't you share what's not secret? But also, if you're not in the club sharing that knowledge, everybody else is.
Yeah.
So you're going to be left behind.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on board?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yes, that's
But Chris, I know that you guys make a lot of efforts to work on the data, like to
people to share.
share,
Yeah.
like all the strategy to keep, to not leak
To keep
anything.
it confidential.
So to be confidential. So it's hard to explain. They trust, or they are never like 100% sure of the things. Nowadays.
It varies. So some companies understand and they're very easy to work with, instantly want to share because they've seen that knowledge is valuable,
Yeah.
not just to them, but to everybody. Other companies take a bit longer. They might take a year or two to think about it before they get to that point. And of course, we've evolved technology. So initially, sharing was a scientist looking at data and understanding what it meant. Now we develop technologies and techniques which are automatically mining data, but in a way that doesn't allow any data to leave a firewall or leave a company.
Yeah.
So things change with new technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I would say that in the beginning was staffs doing the whole work, and
Yeah,
now
that's
you
right.
can use the artificial intelligence to pick up the
But that
data.
does actually pick up on a point. There was a kind of a set of steps to get to that. So I'd say we started with sharing knowledge about how to make chemicals. And people said, oh, no, they'll never share that. But they did. And then we moved on to the toxicology, which we'll perhaps come to in a minute. And they said, oh, of course, that's different. No one would share toxicology knowledge. But they did. And then it was actually some people at Unilever and Procter & Gamble who said, why don't we start sharing some data?
Oh.
You know, we could share data about excipients, for example, rather than active compounds. And people said, oh, no, nobody would ever share data. But they did. You just have to, you have to look at what the problems are.
Yeah.
You know, of course people are cautious.
Yes.
But if you can show them that you can do this in a way that's okay, then they'll go with you.
Yes. And the good things of that is that you won't publish all the problem. You just take the most important information and they build the rule behind it. Yes.
That's right.
And then you put a lot of data to validate the system and then the results and so on. So, and just for us to be clear, what you are talking about is Derek. It was what became.
Well, that's
my next
that's what we
Oh, fine, good.
No, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
How did you guys plan from where should I start? Like from where you guys should start? Derek was the first one.
Well, the first program was called Lhasa. That's why the company got its name. The program that came from Harvard, and you won't like this, but it stood for Lhasa and heuristics applied to synthetic analysis. And it's no accident, in my opinion, that it got called Lhasa at the time when there was the hippie treks into Nepal and so on, people going off to Lhasa in Tibet. I'm sure that's what was behind it all. But that's kind of history. But what happened was that because my company, at that time it was called Phisons, had been involved right from the beginning, they were allowed to have the full source code of the program to play with. And the deal was that they could use it for anything internal they wanted to do, they could use it for. But if they wanted anything to go out of the company, then it had to be in collaboration with Harvard and the group in Leeds. That was the background to it. And I heard that our toxicology department was planning to develop an expert system to advise people on toxicity. And the people who were going to do it were not chemists. They were information scientists and programmers, actually, rather than information scientists. And they put forward a proposal to do this, and the main board of the company turned it down because they said they didn't believe it could possibly be done. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. We've already got the technology. It's the Lhasa technology. So I created a first very primitive demonstration prototype in my lunch times.
No
and
way.
the director of research then wheeled in some people from the main board and said, look at this. And they said, whoa, that's really exciting. So suddenly they liked it. But then, of course, the problem came, but we need knowledge for it. We've only got one toxicologist to put knowledge. Well, we got to the people in the team, but one senior toxicologist to put knowledge in. Where are we going to get the knowledge from? And so by then, Shearing, the German company, not the American one, had actually taken over. So it was Shearing in Berlin who were making the decision.
Oh, nice.
And I rather tentatively put it to them that if they donated this work to Lhasa in Leeds, we might be able to persuade Lhasa in Leeds to set up a project to share knowledge. And the deal maybe could be that Phisons and therefore Shearing got the knowledge back for their own use without having to pay an ongoing fee. And to their great credit, Shearing agreed to do it. And so that was, and of course, toxicology was what everybody wanted. So suddenly it took off. And I mean, that's interesting to me because that's the story so often of companies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the story of the Shell company. I don't know if you know the story of Shell. The Shell, the company, you think, why are they called Shell if they sell petroleum? And the reason is because originally their business was trading in shells from the South Sea Islands. And they started to trade in oil for lamps and gradually grew and realized that's where the business was. And so similar, you know, Lhasa started out in chemical synthesis planning, but then found out what everybody wanted was toxicity prediction. So now everybody says, oh yeah, Lhasa toxicity. Yeah.
This is common in startup as well. Like you here in Brazil, we say pivot. So you can pivot your idea.
Yeah.
It's the same for you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not the word I've used, but I understand straight away what you mean.
Perfect. So they said this a lot. So you can pivot your idea to find the right market fit. So that's the thing. And
But I should add, of course, because of the nature of Lhasa, it wasn't finding a market. It was meeting a need, which is true. A little bit different.
And it still is important. Like toxicology is not resolved. So it's a huge market actually, but it's a need. It's not a market. So you would say something?
Oh, I'm just brainstorming here by myself, like just blowing my mind with all this information because this is so interesting and it's so real for nowadays. You know, it was like 30 years ago, more than 40 years ago, and somehow it's happening nowadays with all the companies. And
And there is something we should acknowledge, and that was the extraordinary imagination of Professor Corey in the USA. In that he saw this idea of doing this chemistry drawing pictures. Let's say, so long ago, the mouse didn't even exist.
Wow.
And it all grew out of that.
Oh, nice.
So,
This is, yes.
and then if you look at the chemical information world, most of the big companies that do chemical information, if you trace them back, they all came out of Harvard. Pretty well all of them.
Yeah.
Can't imagine that.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
And when, so the idea of the first software was, as you said,
Lhasa.
it was not Derek, but during the time that you were at Lhasa, how did you guys thought about, okay, let's go to create something like Derek, let's go to create something like Sarah? It was a need that came up from someone from the companies, or something that you guys envisioned?
It was kind of an internal need. What used to happen
Okay.
was that the head of toxicology used to look at a list of compounds that the chemists had made each week.
Okay.
And if he saw something that worried him, he would just send a note to the chemist or the biologist and say, just be careful with this because I don't like the look of it.
So
And they
you were
said,
looking at the alerts.
can we find a computer to do this for us? That was the background to it.
Wow.
And that, by the way, and he was Derek Sanderson.
Oh,
That's why the computer's program is called Derek. But it was a joke. Initially, jokingly, when we were working on it, we used to call it the Electric Derek.
Oh no.
And the name stuck.
And that's really interesting
met
because, it's really interesting because Sarah also originated from a joke internally at Lhasa. So Sarah was designed to address the ICH-M7 guidelines, which required a statistical system.
Yeah.
And we envisaged right from the front that the two systems would argue with one another and have been in conflict. So we thought, when we need another person to argue with Derek,
Yeah.
so that we came to a single conclusion on a prediction. So it became Derek and Sarah.
Oh, nice. It's kind
so
it's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
I never thought about that. Like, okay, it should be some abbreviation of something or nickname.
and it also is, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
You
we
can,
found- we
you,
found
yeah,
the
you found,
abbreviation
yeah,
after.
you found the abbreviation after.
Yes.
Yes.
We did the same with Derek, but we don't use it anymore because it was such a bad one.
But I remember on the paper all the letters, but I don't remember exactly the phrase, but
Yeah.
I knew that was abbreviation as well. So yeah.
Wow, it's so nice to hear about it.
And let's go.
No, I would ask something, but I forgot. I will just.
No, I would
blowing
say-
my mind.
So in that point, Lhasa was Lhasa already, because your guys were like developing different tools, working on toxicology field in the pharmaceutical companies. What was the challenge to keep moving forward for you when you were at Lhasa? Like, how hard is it to create something so big that we seeing today? Like Chris said, it's 42 pharmaceutical companies that
620.
Members.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, how hard it was?
I think that, nothing's ever easy, is it?
I agree.
In business, or even if we call this business, you have to work at it, but it kind of just grows, doesn't it? You work away at it, and gradually, we've got 25 members now, and a year later, we've got 32 members, and then of course, if you've got 32, the next time around it's not 34, it's 56, or so. It just grows and grows. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the fear always is it grows so far that it just kind of bursts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's more a case of keeping it under control rather than trying to push it forward, I think, sometimes.
And at some point,
I mean, my boss, when I was working in chemistry, my boss once said to me, quite seriously, said, "Philip, my job is to prevent things from happening."
wow.
And what he meant was that if you just let the chemists loose, they just go wild and just do everything, and you've got to try and keep it under control.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and by the time, and you stayed in the industry
I would say
all the time.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, what happened, I stayed in it for, I kind of moved from being a bench chemist to being a chemoinformatician, if you like.
Yes.
Um,
Wow.
And initially with Lhasa, I was just I was just there as this unpaid supporter. But then it came to the point where they needed someone to manage the company. But it was only still a very small company, and they needed someone who could just do 1 day a week to manage this little company. And I agreed to do that. So of course I had to step down from the board because I couldn't be paid as a member of a not-for-profit board. So I just became then, in effect, a 1 day a week employee, and it gradually grew. And the deal was that I would go up to 2.5 days if need be. And when it got to 6 days a week,
Start to get
they decided it was time they took on another manager, which they did. And then I stepped sideways and just became initially head of the research side. And then I stepped to one side from there and just became a consultant, just independent really. And of course, Chris took over at that point, and it went from there.
And it was hard to take the decision to like leave the company, the pharmaceutical that you used to work.
It was agrochemical.
Agrochemical, sorry.
Yeah,
And see that?
it could have been, but I'd been there a long time, and I'd started in a, like
From the
everyone
very
does,
beginning,
just
yeah.
a chemist making some chemicals under instruction. And each time I began to get bored, they found a new job for me. It was more exciting.
To keep you working on.
And I gradually got to the point where there hadn't any opportunities left. And so when the opportunity came, what actually happened was that I was in Leeds for one of these project meetings.
Okay.
But Peter Johnson was going to be away because he was going off to a conference somewhere. But we were just going to work away as usual. And I passed him in the corridor and I said, "Oh, Peter, just a casual comment. I might be interested in working here sometime." And Peter sort of looked over his shoulder and he said, "I'll ring you up when I come back." And offered me the opportunity. And I thought, well, I can't turn this down.
That's great.
And then I thought, what have I done? But I've never regretted it at all. And I should add that where I was working was near Cambridge. And Cambridge is in the middle of some very flat countryside that is of absolutely no interest for you to walk and climb. Whereas Leeds is brilliantly located for both.
So you have more
always
activities.
something more.
Yeah, that's right.
Hiking. It's all about it's all about caving. So
Yes. By
worry.
the end.
it's caving. And do you think that when you look back and you see what Lhasa is now, do you think, or at least you feel that you fulfilled the goal that you thought that it was possible to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited by it when I look, because we honestly, when we moved out of we had some rooms in the university for a little while, and we got too big to use the space they got, and an opportunity came up to move into a building across the road, just from really near the university. But the thing was, it had enough room for about 40 people, and we assessed that we would never need more than 20 members of staff. But we thought, well, we can always sublet the rest of the building.
Yes.
Well, look what happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'd no idea it was going to become so important.
And you stayed there until?
We were there until we didn't fit in that building anymore.
And it is when you moved to this new building?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so we were crammed in
Oh.
the little terrace house opposite the university. So meeting rooms were on the stairwells.
Wow.
Using marker pens on the glass doors in order to have conversations.
Oh.
Yeah, so then we moved to a big building, and again, same conversation. The building's too big for us, we'll have to sublet.
And
Of course,
never
we never
happened.
sublet.
Yeah. you put so many people there.
And now we're about 200.
Oh.
And
Wow.
fortunately, we have a very flexible working policy.
Yes.
So we haven't got enough desks for everybody at the same time.
Yes.
And we were there. It's huge.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yes.
Very nice place.
Yeah.
They have actually like how can I say, the place where we can make the presentations, like the room.
Lecture theatre.
Exactly.
Yes.
Em português, eles possuem inclusive os próprios auditórios.
Yes. It's so nice.
So it's really nice. And it's a really nice place to be. Like, we felt very good on that.
Yeah.
Remember? We took a lot of pictures.
And
You were there,
comfortable
Philip,
as a
unfortunately.
place. Yes. Yes.
But
It was very nice.
I think, like we said, now it's so important that you guys have to think what's coming next all the time. And what do you think is going to be like the future of...
Well, I always come out with the same comments on this because it's been my attitude for years. It's because I'm so old, I can't think of anything new. No, to be fair, I'm serious about it. It's all very well using statistics, for example, in a computer system to try and make some kind of prediction. But actually, you haven't finished the job yet because now you've got to explain why.
You don't think...
And that's where the humans, sorry. Seriously, when a computer comes up with some analysis of statistics, you don't understand. You just know that, it seems to be the case. Mm-hmm. And that's where the human thinking has to come in to say, well, why is that happening? And that's where this knowledge-based approach in computing comes in. You want to capture that interpretation, that understanding. So when the end user uses the computer doesn't just say, I think that'll be a carcinogen. And you say to the computer why, and it says, well, this calculation came out at 1.784. You say, so what you wanted to do is to say, well, it's got this feature in it. And, everybody suspects that they know why, because this makes it able to interact with this protein in this way, and here's a paper that published about it. Well, that's getting the knowledge in there.
Yeah.
And so the statistics is fine, you need it, but you've not finished. That's what I mean about you've not finished. And so I see the future of computing, not just in toxicology, but everywhere, as bringing in that idea of capturing thought and making use of it.
Wow, nice. Ian, before to make the same question to you, I think we didn't said what is the mission of Lhasa and what Lhasa is because of course a lot of people that watching us, they know about Lhasa
because we talk about Lhasa all the time.
We try to explain the papers and to create something that make more and more comfortable for our public to understand more about the tools that we use. But I would ask you to say, what is the purpose, what is the mission, and then what is your idea about the future as well?
So we've got a really simple purpose, which is to support decision-making in chemical safety. And I guess this then speaks back to Philip's comment about giving a statistical chance is not enough. Explaining why is critically important. And if you then think, why do we need to explain why? Is to convince a human.
Yeah.
In other words, to support them in a decision, allow them to make a decision they could be comfortable with and confident with, and themselves defend. And so all of our work is around supporting chemical decision making.
Yeah. And just to add a little bit on that, this is so important. This is something that we discuss a lot when we are working with the software and so on, because you need to understand why you are getting that result. This is what the expert review does. If you don't understand the mechanism behind the software and the result, how can you do an expert review? How can you trust it? And that's why we reinforce a lot here all the time. We're talking about Lhasa. It's why we trust it. Why do we only use the software from Lhasa? Is because we study a little bit and we interact with you all the time to better understand why we are getting that results.
I would like to add, if you guys could comment about the importance of have a good database, because I think that's the difference. Yes. So that the database that you're working on, you will create more and more
from the very beginning.
Of course.
That raises quite an interesting point, actually, because when you're developing this kind of software, but it might not be software, it might be something else, but something creative. Mm-hmm. You have to be a bit brave. So when we said, we're going to move into toxicology, people said, but there isn't enough knowledge, there isn't enough known.
Wow.
And we just sort of said, well, there will be by the time we've written the software. And sure enough, and now we're moving to that point, we said, well, you need to understand what's going on. Well, we get more and more knowledge about the reaction pathways in the biological systems, and gradually, as that knowledge comes through, we can use it, but we have to be ready for it. So we have to always be one step ahead.
Yes.
So the program is hungry for knowledge, and then we just have to find the knowledge to feed it.
Yeah, and getting a little bit of the thing that you said, I would like to ask you guys as well, how important is the expert opinion about that, like expert review as well? Because I know that Chris has some papers published about that, and it's interesting because it's not a statistic. You have to understand more about the numbers that you are getting from the software.
Mechanism also.
And so what is the important about expert opinion?
So in the end, this is really a question about how do you make a decision?
Yeah, this is true.
What information do you need? What evidence do you need? What arguments do you need? How do you use those to convince other people? And that's where Lhasa is uniquely fortunate, in that we work with expert scientists all over the world, and we spend time arguing and talking with them to understand how they think, how they make decisions, and we try and capture it. So first we try and capture it as best practice and publish it, and then we try and encode it in the software to guide a user to say, if you're in this situation, these are arguments that other scientists have thought are important or relevant, and expose those in the software so that it supports the decision.
Yeah.
Nice. It's really...
This is the rationale from the very beginning, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
How our minds work, and our brain search for results and link the information with the molecule and so on. So it's so curious.
The thinking and the approach behind Derek is still just as relevant and still just as cutting edge as it was 30 years ago.
Yes.
It's just the same.
Yes.
Amazing.
And I can see that it's still in the beginning, because there are many endpoints that we need to discover more and more and more. And I also see some other software, some other tools that you are developing, like Captis, that can answer some questions, about the mechanism.
This is a good thing.
Every step of the mechanism.
This is a good thing to say. What is Captis? And because this is the future.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
So Captis, again, supports decisions on chemical safety, but it starts thinking about different decisions.
Okay.
So it's not just about making a prediction and assessing how likely that prediction is to be true, but living in that uncertain world where sometimes nobody will know and nobody can predict.
Yeah.
And in those worlds, what do you do? So sometimes the decision needs to be made is, what do I do to become more confident? Which studies do I run in order to improve my confidence or my prediction? And so Captis guides you by putting into context the knowledge that does exist and looking at the gaps and saying, if you ran this assay, or if you considered this approach, this toxicity pathway, then you could become more confident. So it's asking a slightly different question.
Yeah.
Nice. Very smart, actually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's a kind of different approach.
Yes. And as a Lhasa's scientific board advisor, do you interact with all those ideas? And
Yeah, what tends to happen is that one or two people from the team within Lhasa will come along and talk about what they're doing, some ideas they've got or something they're developing, and invite us as an advisory board to kind of discuss it and come up with thoughts on it. We learn more than they do probably.
yeah.
But it is very exciting to be able to do that. And
Yes,
I
because
guess
you
we
can
make some
see-
useful contributions sometimes.
Yeah, for
Is it
sure.
necessary to be creative, to think and all about this?
Absolutely. That's the whole point about all of this, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what research is. There's, if there's a kind of a slight difference, I think, between chemists and biologists in this area. That, as I see it, just to find out information and catalogue it and put it on record is only part of the story. It's thinking what it might mean, and then finding the experiments to see whether you were right.
Yes.
And that's true with software just as much as it is in the laboratory.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And it's the pure science,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
because
yeah.
you have a question and then you search for an answer. You
Yeah.
can do some tests and predictions. And
But I have a question about that. Like,
You always have a question.
Yeah.
Well, not only one,
Yeah,
but
for
2,
sure.
3 in the same sentence.
Sometimes it's 2, 3 at the same
Yeah.
time. It came to a point that Lhasa starts to get bigger and bigger, and you guys have to like be more on the management of the things, not more
The
on the part
scientist.
of the scientist part for both you guys. How is it for you? Like, how is it for you be a little bit far from the edge of be a scientist and make the calculations and get the numbers? And now we have to work with the board. We have to talk with the companies. We have to deal with our team because we, in a kind of way, we have the same situation because now we are not so close to the things because we have other things to deal with. But of course, we cannot be so far because we're still working on with every project. But for you guys, it's the same, I think.
Yeah, but you see, I took the cunning way out because, I mean, to start,
Okay.
yeah, I had to move very much into a kind of a management role.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I suppose you could say almost an entrepreneurial role.
yeah.
Mm.
But eventually, you see, I just quietly handed it all over to Chris, and I could go back to the chemistry.
So Chris is the solution.
That's the point, Nathan.
So
We're
that's the way to
CEO,
do it.
and then we go back to the science.
So now I have to hear about Chris. So
Yeah.
how it was for you, Chris?
So I think you just have to shift your perspective very slightly.
Okay.
So if you surround yourself with really, really smart people,
Yeah, this is true.
you don't need to know how to do it. You don't need to
Yes.
know all of the detail. There's only one thing you need to know, and that's how to set the right challenge or ask the right question.
Yeah.
And then you let them free.
Yeah. And they usually will freak it out.
Absolutely, that's right, yes.
And you don't miss the thing, like to be doing the things. You don't miss this part of the thing that work on it.
You can follow up and
No, of course, you can follow up.
I'm still very close.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
true.
I love being in the building.
yes.
And you are
we
very
know-
good with math, so
Yes.
I know that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that.
Go to the coffee area.
This is true.
You
Yes.
can always catch someone and ask them some questions.
Yes.
Piece of paper,
I
start
can
scribbling.
imagine. I can
Yes.
imagine.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can imagine.
One of my previous bosses
Okay.
once commented, he said that his job was to maintain an environment that allowed his chemists to create,
Yes.
which is a good way of looking at it.
For sure. For sure. I think that this is the main role of a
CEO.
CEO or a boss or something, that someone that is managing people. You need, I always say to my team here that we are here to provide you a safe environment for you just to think about what you need to think about, to brainstorming,
Yeah.
to think out of the box. And here we are to support you with everything.
Each one has your own role, right? So you have to be on the role correctly. So that's our task, to make them supported, to be
Yes,
to
and
think
they are
about the things
brilliant.
that-
If you are surrounded by good people,
yeah,
by good scientists, wow, it's very satisfying just seeing them just working and putting everything in place.
being happy doing the things. So this is the good part.
And making the things happen,
Yeah, of
because alone you will never do anything. So when you are surrounded by good people,
Yeah,
But I think there's an important point there that you see researchers with really clever ideas,
yeah,
but who don't have either the interest or the ability to kind of sell those ideas and make them happen. And if you can do that for them, you really got some.
yes,
this
Yeah.
is something that it's a kind of soft skill that you have to develop
Yeah.
as well with the time, right? With experiences. Yeah, I agree totally.
yes,
I don't want to take this conversation so far because I know that you guys have a lot of other things to do. But coming to the end, I would like to talk more about Brazil Symposium event. How important is for you guys come here and talk about the things that you guys talk on a symposium? Because for me, I told Maria, when I was on ASHE, I used to work as a medicinal chemistry. So my first goal was develop new molecules, and I used to work with Maria as well. So she was always sending me things to understand more about the impurities, the compatibility, the instability of the stuff. But I didn't have so much clarity about how can I do research on this field until I went to the symposium of Lhasa. And then I realized, oh, it has a lot of research here. And when I did that, it was on my last year on ASHE, actually, because the next one, it was the COVID, so it was not like a real
And we didn't have
year.
the symposium.
And it didn't have the symposium. It was not online.
I think
don't
after
remember.
1 year.
I can't remember, but anyway. And then I figured out that the things that you guys bring, it's like top of the edge, the cutting edge of
yes.
the techniques. So
And the science, yes.
yeah, of course.
Mhm.
And how it is for you guys being here, understand more about Brazil, about the things that we do. So
Oh, it's quite a difficult question. So I think from a personal perspective, Brazil is such a wonderful place to visit. Such
I
a
agree.
fantastic country, such warm, inviting, friendly people. It's just a brilliant place to be. And of course, the food, the fruits.
Yeah,
are
the food, I was-
absolutely amazing. But from a symposium perspective, we're really lucky that we work very closely with industry
Yeah.
and with regulators.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's our chance to bring both sides together
Mhm.
in one meeting.
Yeah.
And so we bring regulators from around the world, we bring scientists from around the world in order to share that knowledge and that understanding and those
Sure.
perspectives all in one room.
nice.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, isn't it? You know, obviously there's an aspect of this of coming to Brazil to tell people in Brazil what we do.
Mhm.
But I think what's in the end more important is finding out from people in Brazil what more can we do. You know, what do you want to push into this? How can you contribute?
Yes. And this is a very good point because people, I don't know if people knows, but all the members, all the Lhasa, if you buy a software, you become a member. Yeah.
Yes.
And as a member, you can contribute with all the tools.
Well, yeah, it's more than that because, you know, you said buy the program, but you don't actually do that. What you
Yes, in
do
fact, yes.
is you become a member.
Yes,
of the
that's the
organisation.
point.
And because it's a membership organisation,
Yeah.
in the way that it's structured legally, I mean, you are one of the owners of the organisation.
Yes.
You're not just some hanger-on who's buying a service.
Really?
You know, you have your say in running the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's also important because, you know, we need that support. We need that input.
Wow, Philip, thank you very much for saying that in that way, because it's so hard for people. Because most of the time, people think that you are selling. Lhasa is selling things, and Lhasa is not selling.
No, that's right.
Lhasa is inviting you to become a member and to share your knowledge,
Yeah.
and for us to
create more,
create
better softwares.
Yes, and that's the point. I think there's no competition with that, you know. So it's so different from all the software developers do, and that's the point. And I really incentivize people to share, to provide their knowledge, because it's when we can think about how to solve the problems and to think about the future of Lhasa and everything.
Well, ultimately, Lhasa an educational charity. We want to share
Yes.
that knowledge.
Yeah.
And because we're so heavily driven by our purpose of supporting decision making, we're driven by that purpose and we're not driven by profit.
Yeah.
We can't make a profit in the end.
Yes.
It's the purpose that keeps us going.
Yeah, this is true. And I think my last question, I don't know, I promised I'm not going to make more questions from you guys. I promise that. How it is exchange a lot of information, not exchange, I mean share information with different agency, like regulatory agency, how it is talk with them, because they talk with you, you guys talk with them, because it's important to understand more about the needs, right? So it's different from country to country. The culture is important. How for you guys, because you guys probably, both of you that have to deal with this too. So how is it to work with the agencies?
Yeah, it's true, and the agencies do differ quite a lot, don't they, in the different countries, and of course they all have their own concerns.
Yeah.
And but in the end, they kind of, at a basic level, there's a common thread. They, as individuals, those people want to make sure that they're falling in line with the policies of their organisation, their government or whoever.
Yeah.
And that will involve things like not getting mixed up in commercial commitments to one organisation or another, and so on. But the actual approach does depend on the culture. So in one place there'll be more casual, another one less.
Yeah.
And you have to be sensitive to that. So you can understand that is an important.
Yeah. And I can imagine with the time, like the things change, and
Yeah, they do change.
so you have to one time like more contact, sometimes less, and then everything changed. Something happens in the world. Nitrosamines came up, and then everybody's talk to each other again. So
Yeah, that's another point that you have to kind of be a little bit brave in sticking to where you're going. It goes through fashions, we've got to do this particular endpoint, we've got to do that.
yeah,
But you need to look at the bigger picture all the time. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
It was my
And-
next question.
And in the beginning, you interacted a lot with people from the agrochemical.
Yeah, that was my
Yes.
own history. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And we changed a little bit because now we can, it's so diverse. So you can use to the agrochemicals, to the cosmetics, to the medicines and pharmaceuticals and so on. So I think it's needed some good ability
Skills.
skills to talk to so many different agencies, clients, and cultures. So
Yeah, but
Wow.
I think that's
areas.
a good point there. I think Chris would probably say the same thing, that those different groups, like, say, cosmetics industry, they have their own different problems,
yeah,
and they're looking to us to help them with that. But when it comes to how do we help, it's all chemistry. It doesn't matter whether it's a herbicide or a skin cream. It's still the chemistry that matters.
yes,
So,
and chemics and also the biological effect of it. Yes.
yeah. I mean,
You are exposed to it anyway, so
that's one thing that I've come to learn. Is that chemistry and biology are so close to each other.
yeah.
That on paper, when you're learning at school, you think they're different subjects, but
Yes.
there's a complete overlap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nathan will say, okay, you are looking at me. I know that you are talking. You're saying that the medicine chemist is the best thing ever. I said, okay.
No. But I would say that I did my last question. So
Oh, okay. And what do you think, Chris?
Funny, he only asks questions, he doesn't give answers.
Yes, no, yeah.
I never had the answers.
No, he wants me to tell that medicine
But this-
chemist is the best
No.
because can reunite this both areas, so you can think about chemist and biological.
Yeah.
It's true.
biology.
It is true. So
Do you want to add something, Chris?
Well, I think really you can either look at industry and regulators as different and
Okay.
different countries as different, or you can see the similarities. And in the end, real people,
Yeah.
scientists, trying to make good decisions in their context, whether industry or regulator or different countries.
Yes.
And that commonality is where Lhasa focuses to address their collective and common needs.
Mm-hmm. And provide safe products and to
Good decisions.
yes to all the people who are going to be exposed to it. So
Absolutely, yeah.
and this is the main point, yes, because the regulators just want that.
Yeah.
They want to be sure that this is safe somehow. And the pharmaceutical industry too, because otherwise they're going to have a huge problem. Yeah.
And one thing both parties have in common, of course, is to reduce the need for animal testing.
yeah.
Ah, yes, for
Another thing that
sure.
we didn't say yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
And in silico
Yeah.
is the solution to that problem.
Yes.
Because how else can you collect together all the knowledge you have from all of the studies that we've done in the past
Yeah.
and get to a decision without relying on an animal?
And this is something that I always tell when I am doing some lectures and is that with the Silico, it's an alternative method for the use of animals, but it's also a way for you to respect all the researches that were done until today, you know? Because sometimes people are doing the same thing without knowing that someone in the world has done this before, you know? So, and you can use this information that someone has already studied. So it's so beautiful to see that you are respecting all the science that has been done, and you are putting it into a program, and then you will improve this somehow, you know?
Yeah, I remember someone commenting once in the early days of the work and saying, but all you're doing is just collecting existing knowledge. What's the point?
Yes.
And then maybe 12 months later, they came back and said they found a point. They themselves had just rediscovered a piece of knowledge they had provided and had forgotten about.
Wow, you know?
And that's what the computer's there for, isn't it?
And that's so beautiful to see, you know, because you will improve. It's always about improving what somebody has done before. So it's, I don't know how you feel, Philip, but I think it's you need to be very proud of what you started and what Lhasa is today, you know, because
it's amazing.
You and your colleagues, yes, from the university and so on. So you started something that changed the world completely.
Well, I'd like to think so, but you know, you have to be realistic about this. You know, we were three guys who had this idea of something we wanted to do because we were scientists.
Yeah, but you were brave to do that.
But what grew out of it was the result of all the other scientists who came on board.
Yes, I'm sure it is. But yes, all the people involved was very successful and has the contribution. But you need to be very brave to start something, because and not only to start, but to continue it. You know.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to come
and to share
at it. Yeah.
Yes, to keep it moving and being
and I think
good.
And I think that it's important the way that you guys probably share the message to keep bringing more and more scientists with the same purpose. Look, Chris is here. Like, you got a lot of different
200 people.
Yeah, of course.
Around the world,
so it's really, really amazing with the thing that you guys having done like the last couple of years. So yes.
41 years. Yes, that
this year, right?
This year, yes. We went for the 40th anniversary. So it's a good achievement, Philip, and I would like to thank you so much, because it contributed a lot,
for sure.
Not only with my field, that it's toxicology, and to the assessment, and to provide, by the end, to provide safe products and pharmaceuticals to everybody. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for the comments. So it's nice to know that we've got somewhere.
Yes,
for sure.
Not somewhere. I think you've got so many places, but and we still have lots of things to do.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Another 40 years worth. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yes, that's great.
Well, I hope I'll still be around to see that.
I hope to. With your practices, exercising, and so on, I really think that you will be there for sure.
Definitely. So, great way to end up this episode.
Yes,
right?
I hope so.
I want to say something that it's really important, at least for us. Maria and I think we are very lucky persons, because we have the opportunity to talk with people sometimes.
Sometimes I would
Sometimes I mean that,
talk to people.
because sometimes we have the opportunity to be on the same table, in the same place, in the same room, and we are treated in the same, like, with very, very good persons, very good people, and to have time to talk with like CEOs, it's very important for us, because we still learning the things. Of course, we are like at our 5 years now? Fifth year?
Yeah.
5th year in the spectrum?
5 and a half.
5th and a half. But we already have the opportunity to sit with Chris and Karina as well.
Always a good opportunity.
And we have the opportunity to come here, sit with him, and talk a lot of different things, and to discuss his strategy, like, for us, that we want to learn more about how create a company, how to build the things, how to make plans for 10 years, 5 years that we already talked with
40.
you.
40.
And we have the opportunity to talk sometimes with other people as well. But definitely, Philip, it is amazing to talk with you. I think on the things that you said here and the things that Chris already said, it's really important for us. It's really important for me
Yeah.
because create some clarity of the things that we should pursue. So I'm very glad to have the opportunity to be on the same table that you guys.
Well,
I'm
thank you
really
for
glad.
inviting us to come along at all.
Yeah, for sure. Come more often.
Yes, yes.
So I think we are very
And now
lucky.
you can put in your CV that you are also a podcaster.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Perfect.
In a very extensive CV that you already have,
Yeah,
you can put just another thing.
Yeah.
there.
So I think Maria and I, we are very lucky people to have the opportunity to talk with people that we admire, and we are able to learn more and more.
And
Just-
share.
Share is the
More
second part.
receiving than sharing.
That's why share is the second part. Once that we get the things, we understand the things, we can share the message, at least inside of Spectra with the people that we work. So I think we are really fortunate, and I really appreciate you guys come here. It was our first podcast that we would
Put
like
it in English.
in
yes.
English, and we were very, very excited to talk with you guys and to make this a very, very important podcast for you as well.
Yes, and it was in fact it was a class.
Oh,
was
yeah.
Because
I learned more.
we learned a lot. So, and I would like to thank you both too. We have, as Nathan told, the opportunity to interact a little bit more with Chris and Karina, but interacting with you that has the idea from the
Yeah, it's
very
amazing.
beginning. It's a whole different story. So I really appreciate. Thank you very much, Karina. Philip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now we are going to change to Portuguese again, just to say a few words before we leave.
Oh, just ask them. Do you want to leave some message for
yeah,
your
sure.
audience, as you are stars now?
This one's going to probably this episode is going to reach UK as well. So
We hope so. We hope
Yeah.
that can reach all over the world. So
yeah, it's our first one in English.
yes,
Well, I guess my message is just, collaborate.
yeah,
Nice.
That's what really that's what science is about, isn't it?
yeah.
Yes.
Never mind about all these international arguments. Just collaborate.
That's great. That's really nice to hear. And you, Chris?
I can't add anything to that.
Yeah.
Collaboration is so important. Sharing knowledge, sharing data,
Yeah.
sharing ideas, sharing approaches, sharing how you think,
Mm-hmm.
all important.
Yeah, perfect.
That's great.
Sounds great.
And this is also what the symposium is about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we will
Perfect.
meet soon
Yeah.
at the symposium.
We will change for Portuguese now. So, galera. Sou galera.
So,
Sou
galera.
Leandro, depois você corta esse sou galera aí. Quando vocês assistirem esse episódio, provavelmente o simpósio já vai ter acontecido, né? Mas com certeza depois do simpósio a gente vai fazer um episódio, inclusive, do resumão do simpósio, que a
Exato.
gente sempre faz. Para vocês que perderam, que não tiveram a possibilidade de estar lá presente, até porque são vagas limitadas, né? Vocês vão poder acompanhar e se atualizar com o que aconteceu aqui no podcast. Mas a gente fica muito feliz, ficou muito feliz de bater esse papo com eles. Eles aceitaram prontamente, foi bem de última hora, foi muito bacana. A gente não planejou
chegaram no
nada.
Brasil e já.
Eles chegaram
já
no
vieram
Brasil,
pra
a gente
cá.
propôs, eles vieram. Então, espero que vocês aproveitem um pouquinho do que a gente aproveitou, né? E
Vai ter vlog.
vai ter vlog do
vai ter
simpósio
vlog.
também, então o episódio do vlog também vai sair. Então vocês vão ver bastante coisa dessa visita aqui, certo? Recadinho antes da gente ir embora.
Não se esqueçam de seguir a Spectra nas redes sociais. Então, Spectra Soluções Científicas no Instagram e no LinkedIn.
Isso.
E Pastelaria Podcast no YouTube, Spotify e qualquer plataforma de áudio que da sua preferência.
Então, ó, não se esqueça, se inscreve no canal no YouTube, ativa o sininho, deixa o seu comentário, dá o like pra gente saber se a gente tá no caminho certo.
Compartilha,
Compartilha
porque esse
também.
aqui dá para chegar no mundo inteiro, né?
A mesma coisa no Spotify. Agradecer bastante o nosso parceiro Axios Research, que ajuda a gente a viabilizar todo esse projeto agora. Ele tá com a gente, a Axios está com a gente aqui nos
Em
próximos
breve tem
episódios.
novidade aí também.
Em
hein?
breve tem mais novidade e vocês vão ver provavelmente mais vezes o Sérgio aqui também. Se você não assistiu o episódio, volta aqui A gente fez um episódio com ele bem bacana, que tem sido muito
Não, mas
bem...
tem mais parceiros chegando,
Não, vai
né?
ter mais parceiros chegando, mas isso é um
pode falar,
segredo ainda mais pra frente. Mas então volta lá e assiste o episódio com o Sérgio. No card, tá aqui, ó, o Leandro colocou no card. Aqui embaixo também na descrição do episódio vai ter todos os materiais dos nossos parceiros do Cromatografando, para vocês que trabalham com HPLC e que querem continuar se atualizando. Tem o guia de filtros, agora tem o guia de coluna novo que a gente lançou, que eles lançaram na realidade. E o curso do HPLC, né, Leandro, que está disponível lá também, é só acessar aqui o link. Beleza? Certo? Então, provavelmente nos vemos no próximo episódio. Vamos ver. Não sei quando que a gente vai gravar o próximo ainda, porque a agenda tá meio complicada, mas...
Vai ter vlog.
Vai ter vlog e deixa nos comentários que tipo de assunto vocês querem ouvir mais aqui com mais frequência, beleza? E se gostou também, com certeza, termina aqui.
É isso. Se vocês gostaram em inglês, avisa aí que a gente...
E se a gente tiver que fazer mais aula de inglês, também deixa aqui pra gente, que a gente se esforça pra tentar fazer mais.
Nossa, que os nossos professores de inglês não ouçam esse episódio.
Eles vão ouvir. Então, galera, como o Pasteur dizia, que o acaso favoreça
as mentes
preparadas, e com certeza que algo que a gente comentou aqui seja o acaso que vocês estão esperando. Até o próximo episódio. Tchau.
Tchau.
We end up.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.